my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul. Thank you. What energy this morning. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? I didn't come to worry your patience. I just came to bring celebration. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear people? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear people? How do you do? How do you do? I didn't come to worry your patience. I just came to bring celebration. How do you do, my dear people? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear Linda? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear Sarah Joy? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear Taylor? How do you do, my dear Eric? How do you do, my dear Allison? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, my dear brand new person? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? I didn't come to worry your patience. I just came to bring celebration. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? Thank you very much. Some of you will remember that was taught to me by the late Jan Spencer. It's from the Sea Islands of South Carolina. It was a song sung at Penn Center, which was originally a school and then a community center for the people who had been enslaved who were first freed at the very beginning of the Civil War. And this is one of the songs people would sing to open their gatherings, to sort of set the tone and also put them in a place to be ready to be with each other. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? So that's where that comes from. And I want to introduce Linda Snyder as part of our How Do You Do, who's our accompanist this morning. Thanks, Linda, very much. And because we're about to how do you do each other, I'm going to invite us to let our cell phones have a break. Now's your chance just to pull it out. Don't hesitate, just to pull it out and double check so we can be released from the tethering of our phones for a little bit. And as you may know, talking to strangers is our focus today. And you're about to have the chance maybe to talk to a stranger to you. So to get us ready, I invite us to take 3 deep breaths, in through the nose and out through the mouth, if that's comfortable. And another one we're going to take even a little more time. And out through the mouth. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. And all of that is to help us be centered, genuine, open, and fully ourselves at the same time when we interact with someone in a moment, which might not be comfortable for all of us. So I invite you to say hello and to greet the people around you with as much as you have available this morning. On Zoom, too, I invite you to say hello to each other. Now's your chance. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? I didn't come to worry your patience. I just came to bring celebration. How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do, everybody? How do you do, everybody? How do you do, everybody? How do you do? How do you do? Yvonne Bartlett, who's going to offer our land acknowledgement this morning.
Our land acknowledgement, we see them on the streets, and we know them only as strangers. We see them in the market and know them only as strangers. We drive past them on the road and see them only as strangers. And yet, in fact, they are our hosts. They are the Nisenan. Each Sunday we pause to speak to these people, the Nisenan, who are in fact not the strangers, they are our hosts. We say we recognize the legacy of your culture and the legacy of your losses, so far beyond our capacity to truly comprehend. We say with this basket of black oak acorns, we express our heartfelt desire that you may recover more and more of your rich cultural heritage. With our awareness that compassion is a word of action, we commit to support you these and other efforts in whatever ways we can under your guidance and your requests.
I invite Mick to offer our chalice lighting words this morning. Come on up, Mick.
Good morning. This is a poem called We Lay Down Our Burdens by Kate Steinberg. Beloved companions, we arrive in this place where all we have to do is breathe. We don't have to impress or convince or win over. We don't have to know the words. It's okay we didn't read the book, or pass the test, or carry that title, or meet the mark. We don't have to be anything but who we are. Here we rest in essence together. We move into this communal rest. We lay down our burdens, our longing, our craving, our unmet need, our error, our regret, our sudden disappointment, our anxiety, our shame, our sheer exhaustion, our bewilderment, our bafflement, our burgeoning terror. All of this we lay down together today. As we do this, may we be filled instead with presence. May we feel held in the comfort of our community. May we discover new compassion for ourselves and others. May we meet this moment with sheer gentleness, ease, and gratitude. For this is the air we breathe together, for these questions we ask together, for justice we seek together, for the songs we sing together. Amen.
So I'm the one that gets to see what's hiding in here. This. Anybody wonder? It's the Wonder Box. Okay.
Wonder what's in it?
Wow. Are those special? Colorful dominoes? Whole set? Look, you guys got to stay for the sermon. You can't go up and play dominoes with the kids. These are going with the children, and I am wondering, is there anyone who wants to come and take them? Okay. We have one tall child. And join me in singing the children on their way. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains right here in Grass Valley, California. I'm Gail Vaughan and honored to be your worship associate for the month of October. As we come together to explore how cultivating compassion can enrich not only others, but bring more peace, joy, and aliveness to our own lives. Now, some of you may have noticed that I tend to serve as worship associate for a whole month of Sundays. This allows me to dig deep, really deep, into the theme. I entered this month's process viewing compassion as a feel-good, easy-to-digest theme. But much like Alice as she slipped through the looking glass, I found aspects of myself that I had not brought to consciousness and entered into deep inner work that is both delicious and a challenging spiritual path. The word compassion brought to mind powerful portraits of persons experiencing homelessness taken by our gifted friend Deanne Donnelly. I met Deanne when she was serving on the board of Sierra Roots, which just happens to be this month's Pass the Plate partner. As a passionate advocate for those living without homes, Deanne sees and shows their humanness and intrinsic worth. These portraits trigger my compassion as I am reminded that there, but for grace go I, Without hesitation, Deanne gave her permission for us to use her portraits all month. These portraits of these lovely people, you'll be seeing them, and you have seen some already. They live among us as neighbors. I invite you to hold them in your hearts and think of them as we explore today's topic of talking to strangers. So, welcome, friends, whether new friends or old, potential friends, or simply passers-by. We hope you feel warmly welcomed here. Thank you.
The song we're about to sing is from the new UUA hymnal, which is all virtual. It's all online, which is lovely. But I wanted to tell you about the composer of this song, too. It's by the Reverend Michael Slack, really amazing and wonderful person, who's the community minister for worship and spiritual care for Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. It's an organization and a growing spiritual community that provides support, resources, and care for Black Unitarian Universalists across the diaspora. He's also one of the co-founders of the Transforming Hearts Collective, which does amazing workshops. It's an organizing ministry that helps both create spaces of healing and spiritual resiliency for queer and trans non-binary folks, and resource congregations in the work of radical welcome and culture shift. So I invite us to rise in body or in spirit and to join in these words of the Reverend Michael Slack. We'll have a chance to hear the melody first. May I be light in you, may you be light in me, into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you, may you be love in me, from this place out to the world for all time. May I be light in you, may you be light in me, into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you, may you be love in me, from this place out to the world for all time. We enter this honoring of our joys and sorrows this week with the words and the wisdom of my colleague, the Reverend Linda Susan Ulrich. Open up the doors. Open up the doors. Push on looming wooden arches embroidered with ironwork. Braced shoulders against the weight of history unmoved. Slough off the musty smell of unused joy and stored up sorrow. Knock rust off the hinges if you have to, and let your breath precede you inside.
Open the doors more. Make room for a shaft of sunlight to cross the threshold. Give the dust motes something to dance about. Peek through a single slice of possibility and name even the half-hidden truths you see.
Open the doors wider still. Pour yourself through the gap. Strut or sneak or sidle as suits you best. Cleanse whatever scrapes, scratch your skin, and bind up the wounds that keep you from entering whole.
Open the doors as far as they will go. Draw on the strength of the stones beneath you. Ground yourself in a firm sense of who you are. Stand as a beacon welcoming the next seeker, and shine far beyond the lentil and sill.
Open all that you are. Heighten and deepen your connections to the world around you. Broaden your definition of neighbor. Grow into the largest target for grace that you can muster. And pray to become a gateway for even greater love and compassion.
Open up the doors, my friends, lest we keep the stranger out and condemn ourselves to prisons of our own making.
May I be light in you. May you be light in me. Into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you. May you be love in me. From this place out to the world for all time. May I be light in you. May you be light in me. Into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you. May you be love in me. From this place out to the world for all time. With that invitation to be light and love in and for each other and the world, we light our candle of compassion, resistance, and resilience to honor all that we are facing as a nation, as a world, all the ways we are impacted ourselves, and all the ways we are learning to find our way. I wonder if someone would like to light our candle of compassion, resistance, and resilience this morning. Claire. Yeah, the tall beeswax candle there. Thank you, Claire. And I invite you into this weekly ritual. If you're new, it's a ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows we carry in our hearts today, that we bring in with us, the people, the concerns, the worries, but also the joys and celebrations we bring with us. There's a chance to honor that in a ritual and very tangibly by taking a stone from the table here and placing it in the bowl of water. So we have that tangible representation of what we hold and this tangible representation of all that holds us. And if you're on Zoom, there's a chance to type into the chat some piece of the joys, the sorrows, the concerns that you carry in your heart this morning. I invite us to understand this time, even if we're just staying still where we are, that we are holding each other in the midst of this, not knowing what's going on in someone else's heart exactly, but knowing that there's a range of what people carry this morning. So I invite George, our late pastoral care person this morning, to come forward to join me. And I invite you forward or to type into the chat as feels right and comfortable to you. That is a very full bowl. It's a very full bowl, right? I asked George to help me add the few remaining stones, right? Get them all in there because it's that and more. May your prayers be met. May your prayers be met. Heard, if not exactly answered in the way you hope or expect, but met. As we hold all of it, as we hold this as hurting, anxious, exuberant, caring, confused, aching, weary, and persistent individuals in community, let us commit ourselves to lifelong learning, the lifelong learning of compassion, the often difficult and always tender work of growing our compassion, calling on God, the Goddess, the Spirit of life, divine essence, the best in humanity, the core of who we are, for the patience and the courage needed. Let us open up the doors, my friends. Heighten and deepen our connections to the world around us. Broaden our definition of neighbor. Grow into the largest target for grace that we can muster. And pray to become a gateway for even greater love and compassion, lest we keep the stranger out and find ourselves in prisons of our own making. So may it be. So may it be. Some of you will recognize this. Oh, yes. It's Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. This was published in 2017, when he could see the rumblings of what was coming, and he was studying tyranny, but just in a very short order, I want to say it was like a weekend, he wrote these things down, these 20 kind of brief suggestions based on what he'd been learning about how people managed in other times. Lesson number 12. Make eye contact and small talk. Make eye contact and small talk. This is not just polite, he writes. It is part of being a citizen and a responsible member of society. It is also a way to stay in touch with your surroundings, break down social barriers, and understand whom you should and should not trust. If we enter a culture of denunciation, you will want to know the psychological landscape of your daily life. Make eye contact and small talk. We'll come back. Today's service began from a suggestion by Laura Harder, who pointed out a Hidden Brain podcast in which Shankar Vedantam interviewed Jillian Sandstrom about her experience and then her professional studies of talking to strangers, her encouragement of people to talk to strangers for the sake of our own happiness and well-being as much as anything. In fact, Laura entered an email conversation with Jillian, who in the process created a workshop and learning experience that she could hand to people to use, since she's a finite human being, and she wanted more people to have it. So we actually have a workshop ready with videos of Jillian speaking that I hope we'll offer, because I think this is a particularly profound and relatively small but super meaningful way, something that has meaningful consequences for us to make a difference, to get unstuck ourselves, maybe when it's so hard to know what to do, and help us stay flexible and limber for the sake of all that we hold dear. So when I think about talking to strangers, the person that comes immediately to mind is a very dear friend of mine, a friend of 40 years. And this has happened so many times, I cannot tell you. We'd go shopping, and we're at the grocery store, and I check out first with my items, and I have this very kind and nice and perfunctory conversation with the cashier, right? Hi, how you doing? Nice day. How you? Thank you. And then, I kid you not, within 10 seconds, I do not even have my wallet put away. My friend and the cashier are best buddies. It is that fast. She says exactly the thing, and you watch the person's face light up, but not just light up, it warms up, and they're laughing, and they have this deep connection. I kid you not, within 10 seconds. I joke that she cannot not make a friend when she's talking to somebody. Same thing happens when we were out hiking or snowshoeing, where it's a pretty rapid pass, right? Some meaningful thing would happen. It just amazed me. I just marveled and appreciated it all the time. And I also thought, that is not me. That is not my gift. I'm a friendly person, right? I'm a kind person, but I do not have that magic ability. It's not my gift, or so I thought or told myself. Although I did sort of have that confirmed at one level when I had my career assessment for ministry. So when you're wanting to become a Unitarian Universalist minister, the people who eventually credential you want you to know early on whether this is a good fit for you. Do you have the psychological capacity, or are you going to be a harmful person, right? Can you hold the weight that you need to hold as a minister? Do you have the intellectual capacity? We do 2 days of a battery of every test and assessment you can imagine. IQ, Myers-Briggs, Minnesota Multiphasic, Enneagram, this whole series. We meet with a psychiatrist and psychologist. And so it turns out that in the Enneagram is so clear that I'm way on the far end of the introvert spectrum when it comes to introvert-extrovert. I'm way on the introvert side, which, as many of you will also think of as the idea that I get my energy, I charge my battery in solitude by being alone. That's how I charge it up. And then I have the energy to spend engaging with people. Happy to do it, but it's just finite. So if I'm people time, the battery gradually wears down, right? And once it gets past that certain point, I have to go be alone, and then I charge up my battery, as opposed to somebody who's primarily extroverted, who charges their battery by engagement with people. The more engagement they have, the more the battery gets filled up. But being alone is expensive. Being in solitude requires energy, and the battery gradually goes down. My sister will sometimes go shopping just to have people engagement when her battery gets low. So this was so helpful when I was in my early 20s, and my partner and I finally realized that I was an introvert, he was an extrovert, and we started taking 2 cars to parties. Because my battery would just be hitting that 20% signal, like warning, he's just starting to get his battery filled. So we'd take 2 cars, and at a certain point, I would go, and he would stay, and we'd each get what we needed. Yeah, it worked, right. So at the end of this whole battery of tests, you sit down with the director. And this is an organization at that time that did this for religious organizations of many kinds. They help career assess people who are approaching religious leadership. So he sits down with me and he said, we do this for lots of organizations and lots of different religious traditions. And this level of introversion would typically be a really important red flag that ministry might not be for you. But he said, but not for Unitarian Universalists. I was looking for the statistics so I could give you numbers, but any congregation who does, when you're searching for a minister, they kind of do this assessment, and this is one of the things they'll register sometimes, but it's very consistent. We have a higher than average number of introverts in our midst. Anybody want to self-identify as introverted? Anybody want to self-identify as extroverted? I'm sorry, extroverted people. Anybody want to be ambidextrous? Yeah. Some in between. Depends who the people are. It's a spectrum, right? So I realized that out of that process, that in my default setting, when I'm on automatic pilot, I'm approaching someone on a sidewalk, a cashier. I'm not thinking about it, but I'm unconsciously anticipating they're going to draw my energy, right? They're going to zap my battery. They're going to draw energy from my precious reserve of energy. But I had this experience the other day. So I'm thinking about talking to strangers. I'm thinking about being with you today. I'm thinking of this sermon. And I was on my way to the dentist. And a dental appointment, which takes 9 months to get, is not something you want to be late for, right, or miss. And I was a little behind, but I was trying to get home in time to eat something and brush my teeth and floss thoroughly. So I was kind of in a bit of a hurry. So I come out the corner there, and I come around the corner, and a gentleman and I startle each other, right? And did that, oh, hi, quick thing. And normally I would have continued right onto my car, but I just went and picked up the conversation and had this beautiful conversation, heard the whole story of how this gentleman came here in his 20s, many, many, many years ago to do an engineering project, and then later moved here to live with his son, and all about kind of stories of Grass Valley. And we talked about the hiking of the hills here because he was out on a walk and he was kind of taking a moment to breathe. Had this beautiful exchange, which did not drain my battery. It added to it. And so I've been thoughtful about this, what was going on there. And it wasn't generative because I had decided ahead of time that I should do this. I'm going to preach on this. I should be practicing. I should do this. That wasn't it, even though there's a piece of that in there, right? The difference was that I had been listening to people's stories about talking to strangers and the good that came from that so often. And I was reflecting on my own experiences and my friend, that's what was in me. And so it wasn't that my thinking had changed, it's that my heart in that moment was in a different place. It wasn't a change of mind, thinking, it was a change of heart. I was receptive in a different way. And that's what made the difference for my battery direction. It was that I wasn't anticipating, they're going to drain my energy ahead of time, even before something happens. So it was a change of heart, not a change of mind. So I'm curious, how many people feel comfortable in general talking to strangers? Who's pretty good with that? Comfortable talking to strangers? Yeah. Who's uncomfortable talking to strangers? Yeah. Who's somewhere in between? Yeah. So I wonder if you have a talking to strangers story with some unexpected encounter, you didn't anticipate it, somehow you ended up, maybe you initiated, maybe they did, talking to a stranger, and something good came. I'm wondering if you'd, in a very brief way, be willing to share that story. Here comes Gail, and here comes Marlene with the microphones. And Zoom folks, let me give you a heads up that if you have a story, would you let Eileen know, because we'll come to you as well. So here comes Liana.
Hello. I was on a train several years ago in Europe, going from Germany, somewhere, Amsterdam to Germany. And there was this young man on the train that sat with me, and immediately it was like a son. We just talked the whole train trip. And then when we got off the platform on the train to transfer to another one, we met another young man. And all of a sudden, we were like a family, and that lasted about a minute until we had to get on the next train. But it was like, wow, that's one of the magics of traveling and being open to talking to strangers, is you feel these things that are magical between people you've never met and you'll never see again. So thanks to Rick Steve, I learned about that.
Diana, thank you. Who else? If you raise your, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know when I decided this, but at some point I decided that whenever I was in a checkout line, if there was someone around me, which of course there is, I'm going to actually look at them and notice something about them. And so I did that for years, and then when I had a daughter, we would make a game out of it. When she was very little, I would say, look at the people around and see what you notice. And she had seen me doing this, so I would, maybe it was a checker, maybe it was somebody next to me in line, but I would notice something about them, like, oh, I love the color of your shirt. It just lights up your eyes. All of a sudden, the other person just completely shifts. And not only could we see it in their face, but we could see it and feel it in their being. And so Olivia and I would talk about that and be like, did you notice that? Did you see that change? And so she started doing it too. And it was just always this fun thing that we would do when we were out in the world.
Allison, thank you. Gail's got one there.
I was flying back from a family wedding in Dallas. I was sitting next to a man who, before the plane took off, was on the phone and obviously a businessman, and he was discussing a situation that he was trying to figure out how to negotiate something, and I couldn't help listening, and he was going about it all the wrong way. And so he got off the phone, and I opened my mouth, and I said, hey, I'm a retired or recovering lawyer, and may I suggest that you kind of approach it in trying to come up with a win-win kind of thing. And we talked a bit, and then we talked some more, and it turned out he was an architect who was specializing in designing accommodations for disabled people. So I proceeded to tell him about the kitchen I had just remodeled in order to be totally accommodating, and he's furiously taking notes, kind of thing. And it just, a whole lot of give and take, and he was suggesting some things, etc. But just kind of having stuck my nose in his business slightly, which is not atypical of me, resulted in a really positive connection and really great two-way conversation.
Gail, thank you.
It was about 30 or 35 years ago, and I sat down at a seafood counter bar, and 2 seats down was a young man reading a book, and the book's title was Preparing for a Sex Change Operation. And my first thoughts was, it's the strangest title I've ever seen on a book. And I said, hi, I can't help but notice the title on your book. Is that something you're planning? And he said, yes. And he was so kind and gentle and welcoming. I said, would you be willing to share with me about, what you're experiencing? And he did. And he said, and he moved and sat next to me, and he talked for about 45 minutes. And it really, it so changed my attitude or naivety or judgment, on that subject. And he said, "May I hug you?" And I said, "Of course." He said, "The last person, I've been here a while, a few hours, the last person that sat in that chair saw the title on the book and moved down about 6 seats."
Thank you. Eileen, is there anyone on Zoom? Is there someone on Zoom that's ready to share a story?
Yeah, there's a couple of us. Me, when I was living in Los Angeles, my bank had a paid parking with a gate and a person at the gate. And I would drive in and out frequently, and the guy who was manning the gate, he seemed kind of grumpy. And just as an experiment, I went, what would happen? I'm sure this wouldn't change anything, but what if I say, "How are you?" or something like that? And I started doing this, and I did it maybe only once or a couple of times, and he just brightened up. And every time after that I came through the gate, he would just say hi and start talking to me, and it was really amazing to me.
Eileen, thank you.
So we also have my sister.
We'll do one more from Zoom. So
Yeah, let's see. Let me find her. Suzanne. Let's see, can I spotlight her? I can't spotlight her.
your camera has to be on. Her camera has to be on.
Right.
Here we go.
There you go. And you should be able to unmute now. Let's try this again. Whoop. Yeah? No? Okay.
Go ahead and speak, and we'll see if we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, how about that? I hope I don't blink out. I have terrible internet. Anyway, I was taking, I think, my first Amtrak trip across country to see Eileen and my parents. This was like 15 years ago. And I was sitting in the observation car, and I'm an extreme introvert. And so I was, trying to don't talk to me. It's a public place. But I overheard this conversation a couple seats down of two people talking, and the young man said, I thought I heard him say he had just been arrested in an auction to sell off public lands to oil companies. and I had just finished my thesis, my undergraduate thesis on climate change. I was really freaked out about climate change. So I very uncharacteristically just said, "Did you just say you were arrested in an auction?" And he said, "Yeah." And it turns out it was Tim DeChristopher. I don't know if anybody's heard of him, but he was arrested. He was a climate activist, and he was kind of wiggled his way into this auction and started bidding and on public lands. He didn't have any money, but he shut down the auction doing this, and then spent 2 years in prison. So he's one of my climate heroes, and I met him on Amtrak. So yeah, thanks.
Suzanne, thank you. Suzanne's one of our regulars on Zoom, and from a distance, no less. So I bet you also have a story, right? So I invite you to commit to, when the service ends, to sharing that story with somebody. Find somebody to share your story with, and maybe hear theirs of talking to a stranger. I want to wrap up with a couple things. A couple basics. Jillian's research shows that talking to a stranger increases everyone's happiness, well-being, both parties. right? And decreases a sense of loneliness. People learn things they never would otherwise have learned, like about a transgender person's upcoming surgery, right? And it turns out that it benefits society more broadly because every interaction like that increases trust, right? It increases trust. Starting in each little one increases trust. Most people who are afraid to do this are afraid they're going to get rejected somehow. But almost always it turns out better than people expect. 90% of the time, the other person will respond. The rest of the time, they're polite, typically, even if they don't kind of pick up on it. And there's a very stubborn and persistent liking gap in our culture, which means that we think we like people more than they like us. This is not just people we don't know, but people we know well. We think we like them better than they like us, more than like us. So keep in mind that gap. And her suggestions for getting something started, if that's challenging for you, is to start with the question. Her acronym is QUICK, Q-U for question. Be curious, right? Notice something and ask. Ask a question. Look for something in common, which is why weather is so often the topic, because we're sharing it, right? Look for something shared, but maybe a t-shirt or a bumper sticker or something else gives you an indication. So that's the IC, QU for question, IC for in common. And last one, K, kindness. Offer some kindness, which may be simply, thank you for talking to me. Or it might be a compliment about the way their clothing brings out their eyes. Or it might be some action, holding the door open. So curious question, right? Find something in common and offer a kindness. And if you're worried about keeping it going, here's the magic key. Ask follow-up questions. Not just the first one, but follow up. People like you more if you ask a follow-up question, because it says that you were paying attention, you were listening, that you cared enough to ask a follow-up question. And in terms of, some people are worried, like, how do you end a conversation? So Jillian asked all these workshop people and her study participants, over the years, and she said most of them lie. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got to get to something. Although some people will tell the truth or just say something very simple. Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to end our conversation now, and right, and go. And I thought in the future, I'm going to sit down with our folks who've been doing the deep dialogue work, say, what would be some suggestions for ending a conversation honestly, right? We might look for some tools for that. But I want to end and get back to Snyder for a second. He says that in the tyrannical regimes that arose in the 20th century in various places and different times, he writes, quote, the memoirs of the victims all share a single tender moment. I'll read. Whether the recollection is of fascist Italy in the 1920s, of Nazi Germany of the 1930s, of the Soviet Union during the Great Terror of 1937-38, or of the purges in communist Eastern Europe in the 1940s and 50s. People who were living in fear of repression remembered how their neighbors treated them. A smile, a handshake, or a word of greeting, banal gestures in normal situation, took on great significance. When friends, colleagues, and acquaintances looked away or crossed the street to avoid contact, fear grew. You might not be sure today or tomorrow who feels threatened in the United States, but if you affirm everyone, you can be sure that certain people will feel better. If you affirm everyone, you can be certain people will feel better. Having old friends, or in the most dangerous of times, those who escape and survive generally know people they can trust. Having old friends is the politics of last resort, and making new ones is the first step toward change. Maybe the first step toward a change of heart, I would offer. The spiritual work of opening our hearts while also holding on to our hearts and staying true to them with care and compassion is the work. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition invites a very wide embrace of others. In fact, it invites an ever-widening embrace of others through our whole lifetime. One of the most disturbing and frightening aspects of the political priorities and activities in motion right now is that they are deeply focused in narrowing people's embrace. That's what's so hard, I think, for so many of us, right? They're focused on narrowing people's embrace. They're focused on othering, starting with those who are easiest to other, right? Starts with those who are easiest to other. All of it runs so directly counter to the spiritual value and commitment at the heart of both Unitarianism and Universalism. The invitation and commitment to an ever wider embrace, not just for other people's sake, but for our own health and wholeness and happiness. And, of course, for the sake of a world in which as many people as possible might flourish. Otherwise known as love, perhaps. Given that an eventual better future requires maintaining our own humanity and connection with others in the meantime, talking to strangers is, in this moment, perhaps one of the most doable and accessible on-ramps to putting ourselves productively into the action. And an entry place for stretching and strengthening our own compassion muscle. This is why we're starting here at the beginning of this month focused on compassion. Talking to strangers, accessible. We don't need to begin with the hardest to love people. We don't need to begin with the hardest to accept people in our lives, where the stakes and the emotional energies are at dangerous levels. We don't have to begin at Olympic level. We can commit to practice more simply to start, to make eye contact and small talk, if we can, to talk more engagingly, more intentionally to the strangers we encounter. There's a saying that a stranger is just a friend I haven't met yet, which always sounds kind of saccharine and simplistic and kitschy. But of course, it holds the truth. A potential available in the most random and brief and seemingly banal of encounters. In the midst of racing around the corner on the way to the dentist or in line at the grocery store. I was, at the middle of the pandemic, I was standing in front of the eggs at Grocery Outlet at 8:45 on a winter evening. So it is long past dark. I'm tired. I'm looking at the price of eggs and trying to decide how much I need eggs. And I hear a voice. Are you from Michigan? I had a Michigan sweatshirt on. And I said, yeah. And I said, you know, he said, but I studied there. And we talked, and he said, where are you from? I said, near Traverse City. Oh, I studied near Traverse City. Where is that? I studied at Interlochen. And I said, oh, I studied at Interlochen. And I went to the National Music Camp there. What did you study? I studied organ. I studied organ. Who did you study with? Bob Murphy. I studied with Bob Murphy. He was my teacher all through high school. I am in Grocery Outlet at 8:45 on a winter evening talking to someone who lives on the ridge in Grass Valley, California, and the pool of people who studied with Bob Murphy at Interlochen is not that big a pool. And here we are. And I name that not because it's the most profound or long-lasting encounter, because I love the randomness of it, right? I love the small worldness of it, which is a reminder to me that you never know, so you might as well. You never know, so you might as well. And here's another thing I want to name, that participating in this community will give us opportunities most every Sunday to speak with people we do not know. It's a pain to my heart when I see someone standing alone who no one's talking to. But look how many introverts are in the congregation. Here's an invitation, introverts, to have a change of heart and move in that direction. And here's the other thing, that even if you know somebody well, you are still talking to a stranger, because we never know anyone completely, right? It's a matter of degrees. So let this be our training ground. Let this be our laboratory, if it helps, our dance studio, our fitness gym, our speed dating room, our Zendo, our sacred circle, our driving range, our workshop, for the sake of our spirits, for the sake and the strength of our community, for the strength and sake of our world that will arise out of the fragments of the current demolition. Let's consider something as simple as making eye contact and small talk and talking to strangers with curiosity, an eye for commonalities, and effort toward kindness as our spiritual practice, a starting spiritual practice. We just might change the world. We just might change ourselves in the process. So may we be.
One of the things I learned when I was helping craft this service, and the whole month, in fact, was the difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy is the ability to understand and really feel another's feelings, while compassion takes empathy a step further by adding a component of action to our caring. Our ritual of sharing our treasure is an act of compassion. It not only supports the many ways in which UUCM works to create a world more compassionate, sustainable, and just. Our ritual also targets 50% of our Sunday offering to a nonprofit that shares our values. This month, our Share the Plate partner is Sierra Roots. All morning, you've been seeing faces of Sierra Roots. Here to tell us more about that and their heartfelt and compassionate work is board member Nick Wilczek.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Nick Wilczek. I am on the board of Sierra Roots. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. It is the 4th or 5th year that I've been able to do this.
Because it's a really sensitive mic, so you can just talk like normal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry for blowing out your all's ears there. So it is always really nice to be here. It feels really good in my soul. And one of the things that really makes that happen is that Kev leads the congregation in clapping on 2 and 4. And thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. So at Sierra Roots, we're a small group, and we really focus primarily on 3 things. So building relationships with homeless folks throughout our community. We provide free hot lunch once a week. It's every Thursday we do that. It's open to everybody. And then our biggest role is we contract with the county to run the overnight cold weather shelter. So that's the biggest thing that we do. And that is the result of a lot of volunteer hours and some really dedicated employees that we have. We pay someone to manage the shelter. We pay someone to organize the shelter. And other than that, we have a lot of volunteers. And while we're talking about the board, I just want to give a shout out to Diane Weichel. I don't know if anyone knows her. She is an amazing person. And so to give just an example of the kind of work that she does, I was at public library yesterday. Diane came in to drop off a sleeping bag for a library customer that came in later, and staff knew everyone involved. And I think that's the kind of thing that's really great, where you can, Diane can come in on a first name basis, say, hey, this is for so and such, and yeah, great, we got them. So Sierra Roots, again, I'm really proud of the work we do there. Not going to carry on for a long time. It's been a beautiful service, and I certainly don't want to bog it down in technical talk here. But again, we're building community with folks all the time through lunches, through knowing folks, again, just through short conversation. And I am someone who personality wise, like I love eye contact and one of these sorts of things. Like that's a good conversation. And I have that with like a lot of homeless folks in the community. And just that like really brief acknowledgement is really meaningful to a lot of folks who are not seen and acknowledged most of the time. So I want to thank you all for welcoming me to address you, for being so generous with Sierra Roots, and just that this is always a really wonderful experience for me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your compassionate generosity. We dedicate these gifts to building a more peaceful and joyful community by making talking to strangers a growing part of our lives.
For those who want to know a little bit more about what's this UU thing, or what does this congregation, a little after the service, we'll gather in the library for about an hour-long session of a brief introduction. The Joys and Sorrows candlelight services moved to Mondays. I want to make sure you know that. So that'll be tomorrow evening with Sophia. The Arts and Crafts Circle meets on Friday. The book group meets next Sunday. And here's your chance to make small talk and eye contact around food with Circle Suppers. Go ahead and sign up today. Always check out the website, please. Special thanks to Marlene Bottenfeld, who's our new worship associate, brand new worship associate. And of course, to Gail. And to Yvonne and Marlene and Mick for offering readings today. Linda, thank you very much for being at the piano this morning. Yeah. Stephen, Cypress, Eileen online. Yvonne did the setting today as well. Yvonne Bartlett did the setting today. Thank you, Yvonne. Our greeters, who we'll talk more about in just a second, thank you. George for being our lay pastoral care person, Laura, Susan, Carol, and Joyce for refreshment work. I saw a very busy, wonderfully busy kitchen full earlier. And Linda and Siska and Cheryl, always at the ready for our young ones. Thank you. Special thanks to Deanne, officially, for the photographs, right? Her really beautiful photographs. And I want to do a special thank you to somebody who's moving to Tennessee. That is Elizabeth Rose. So when the congregation was looking for a minister, Elizabeth was on the search team, the set of people the congregation said they would trust to help do this. Elizabeth's one of the people you trusted and has brought so many gifts to that process and so many others. This kind of clarity of heart, this ability to see a better path that's efficient and not overbuilt and just right, but better, right, continually. And this kind of open-hearted, it's going to be good. That's going to work out fine energy. Elizabeth, those has served so many moments just since I've been here, and Elizabeth has been a member for 18 and a half years almost. So thank you. We are going to miss you when you move to Tennessee. We'll look forward to seeing you when you're back. Those of you who know Elizabeth, and maybe even those of you who don't, make a point of finding afterwards. I want to do one more thing, which is to honor and bless our membership team folks. I invite them forward. Where are you, membership team folks? Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna invite you to line the aisle, actually, kind of from front to back. So if you'd spread yourselves out. So Laura Harder, Susan Merrill, Jim Bear. Yeah, somebody up front maybe, and somebody in the middle-ish, and somebody toward the back-ish. So if you'd spread out down the aisle, Susan, if you kind of spread yourselves out down the aisle. Because what we are going to do, use up the whole aisle. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry? Can we invite our guides up? Yes, you can invite the guides and greeters too. So come on up, those of you who serve as greeters, those of you who are guides, and fill the aisle. Mm-hmm. These are people who offer the first eye contact often, right? The first, more than small talk, but the first talk. People who are willing to talk to strangers. I invite the rest of us to, those of you near the aisle, to put a hand on a shoulder of one of these people, and the people behind you to put a shoulder on your shoulder, so we're all connected in some form to these people at the center. Yeah. And I invite you in the silence for a moment to offer your own prayer or blessing for these people who do this on the congregation's behalf with gratitude. And let us invite a blessing on these people who bring and share the gift of welcome and hospitality. For your gifts of welcome, we offer our thanks and blessing. May you be a presence of kindness to all who arrive. May you see the sacred in every person who walks through our doors. May your smiles be genuine, your ears be open, and your welcome be expansive. In greeting others, may you also greet the truest parts of yourselves. We bless your eyes that notice courage and notice trepidation and notice searching souls. We bless your hands that open doors and shake hands and gather up generosity. We bless your hearts that offer warmth and comfort and reassurance. Help us too, not just you. Help us too to welcome the stranger, knowing that with their presence our community is made more whole. Together may we welcome. May our welcome and our hospitality be a testament to our faith in the power of love and the power of belonging. So may it be, and thank you. Hoopla is appropriate. And I invite us to rise in body or in spirit, all of us, and to sing a song of connection, building bridges. Between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to harmony with all of our voices and all of our visions. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Indeed. The words and wisdom of Reverend Alicia Ford, who back in my day was one of those people in that mix of people helping credential UU ministers and finding out if they were psychologically healthy and ready. Our willingness to extend welcome, seeing the humanity and divinity in another, honoring their culture, their identities, their stories, and deeply held truths, this is part of what it means to embody this faith. In our hands is the power to craft a compelling narrative of extraordinary respect, of welcome, of transformational community for our present and our future. May we affirm that truth with our welcome, our acts of hospitality, and in our midst, may there always be room for one more. So may we be. And though we will extinguish this chalice, I invite us to take all the goodness from our time together, including Nick, thank you for being here and bringing your spirit and presence. Together, we will carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. We'll see you next Sunday for more compassion with Yeah, But. Join us for refreshments.